Thank you for standing by and welcome to today's conference. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. After the presentation, we'll conduct a question-and-answer session. In order to ask your question, you may press star 1 on your phone. Today's call is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect. I will now turn the call over to your conference host, Ms. Linda Abrazizi. Ma'am, you may begin.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our webinar on a basic guide to exporting and how to find useful stuff on Export.gov. This webinar is being brought to you in cooperation by the U.S. Foreign Commercial Service. My name is Linda Abrazizi, and I'm an International Trade Specialist for the Trade Information Center for the U.S. Commercial Service at the Department of Commerce. I will be your moderator for today. Our main speaker for this webinar is Senior International Trade Specialist Doug Berry. He will be available at the end of the presentation to answer your specific questions, and contact information will also be provided at the end of this presentation. During this webinar, Doug Berry will talk about trade lanes and market intelligence, how to find a harmonized system code and get an accurate duty and tax estimate for an international shipment, how to find market research on more than 100 countries, and where to find tutorials on this export process. We do have a few housekeeping details to make sure everyone gets the most benefit from this afternoon's webinar. You will be able to hear this presentation via your telephone and view it simultaneously via your computer. So if you're not hooked up through both, please take a moment to do this. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties, please press star 0 anytime during this presentation. We will be taking voice questions during this webinar, and to ask a voice question, please press star 1 on your telephone. We also do invite you to type in your written questions on your screen as they occur to you during this presentation. On the upper left-hand side, there's a Q&A icon on your computer screen, and you can click on it any time during this presentation and type in your written questions. We will compile these questions and answer them after the webinar, and we will send you copies of our answers with an email. And now I'd like to introduce live online from the Trade Information Center in Washington, D.C., Senior International Trade Specialist Doug Berry. Doug, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Linda, and good afternoon, everyone. This is sort of the ultimate party line as we have a very good audience this afternoon all across the country, and we do apologize for the late start, but there were quite a few people trying to get in as we approach the top of the hour. So this is about finding valuable stuff on Export.gov, so let's get into it right now. I have sitting next to me our very able student intern from Texas Tech University, Hunter Buckles, who will be operating the control board here as I talk about all of the valuable stuff that you're going to see. Those of you who would like to go to Export.gov can do so. If you had a second monitor, I suppose that would be easy, but if you can't, don't worry, because we're going to walk you through what we think are some of the more valuable parts of the site. And then you will get a recording, as Linda mentioned, probably within 5 days, and you will be able to then practice finding the things on your own from your own desktop. So it's www.export.gov. Make sure you save that, put that in your favorite websites, because I think you'll be going there regularly, and some of you probably have already. From the looks of the registrants, many of you represent companies already, one part of the company for which this will be a valuable resource, and a smaller number of you are just starting out. You're trying to figure out what kind of goods you might be able to sell to another country, or what kind of business that you could create in order to sell to other countries. And for you, first of all, let's just take a minute to show you some of the architecture here, navigation on the home page. Oh, well, before we do that, let me just briefly walk through the entire outline as we have created it for you. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about the resources that are available for new-to-export companies, and we're going to show you a couple of things that you'll want to take a look at sooner than later, we feel. Then we're going to spend some time talking to those of you who want to expand your exports. This will also be valuable for those who are starting out. And we're going to then walk you through some areas of the site where you'll actually be able to find companies that are looking for U.S. suppliers. So the trade leads are here, and we're going to show you where they are. Then we will take you to an example of one of the U.S. Embassy sites that are connected to Export.gov, and on those sites you will be able to promote your own products to buyers in those countries, and we'll show you how to do that. Then we'll talk a little bit about trade events, which is another way to find buyers both in the United States and overseas, what those events are, why they're important, and which ones are coming up that you might be interested in. And then the discussion will shift to, in addition to the resources we have for finding buyers, the first step for many companies is to analyze the best markets for your products, and we have a number of sections on the site that will help you do that. Research that we have produced through our international network, and there's some great research that will help you refine the number of choices so that you can pick the very best markets that are right for your products. In addition to that, we'll talk a little bit about the sections of the site that deal with free trade agreements. Free trade agreements are, again, a strategic choice that you make. Those countries with which we have them are particularly appealing to small and medium-sized enterprises for a number of reasons, and we'll talk about those. Then there's a lot of trade data on the site and links to other trade data. So when you're looking at selecting a market, you want to look at some primary and some secondary research. We have that on the site, and it's all going to make a stronger case for the market that you will select, hopefully a number of them, to enter in the next year and beyond. But we also have some videos for those of you who prefer to learn that way. Some of them are country specific. We'll show you where those are. Then the third section is devoted to export as a process. Many U.S. companies tell us every day that they have challenges when it comes to figuring out the regulations and the documentation that pertain to each country because they're all different. The good news is that there is a welter of resources on Export.gov that will help you complete the documents effectively and accurately, find the duties and taxes, information on export licensing if you need them, and other kinds of documentation, including certificates of origin. We'll show you where those things are. And then finally, we will show you sort of a miscellaneous category, but it focuses on some inquiries that we get here at the Trade Information Center via our toll-free number, and that is how to file a trade complaint. We hope you never face one. Most companies don't, but occasionally there are difficulties, and we will show you briefly where to go on the site to do that, because the Department of Commerce is a extremely influential organization around the world, a lot of expertise here, and we are able to help U.S. companies and the industries which they represent to deal with some rather thorny trade issues, trade barriers in particular. Another issue that sometimes confronts U.S. companies, hopefully it will never confront you, is the protection of your international property, intellectual property, and we will tell you how to help protect that and show you some resources there. And then finally, we will show you where you can find our colleagues out in the greater United States. We have more than 100 offices. They're called Export Assistance Centers, and one of the goals today will be to help you find the one that's nearest to you, because you'll want to call them, hopefully, as a result of this call. And the things that we talk about, you'll want to make friends, and they're happy to be your friend at the Export Assistance Centers throughout the country. And we'll show you a sample of one of the pages and a service that the Export Assistance Centers have that's online that will also help grow your business. Okay, so let's go to the first page, the home page, Export.gov. There it is. That's what it looks like today. And with the help of Hunter, we're going to find the Begin Exporting tab, which is just below our Director General, his face there, and as you see it changes, and there's the so-called hero box at the top. It changes every week or so, and there's new features there to take a look at as you come back, hopefully frequently. Then click on the Begin Exporting for those of you who are just starting out. or have questions about the kind of market that you would like to go in or the product that you would like to sell, there is a section here for those of you who are just beginning. You can find some videos, and we will also take a look at the basic guide to exporting next. This is our book, and within the next couple of weeks, the entire book is going to be available online, and you will be able to access and be able to read the entire book, Exporting 101, and there is some webinars there that you can see. And let's see, there, we're going to get the book here in just a second. The book is called A Basic Guide to Exporting, and it's the 10th edition, and a new version of it is coming off the printer from the printers at the end of August, and it will be in bookstores, but it will also be available online. There, we just did a search for it because we forgot where it was. This is, of course, how to find valuable stuff. We did not promise it would necessarily be easy, but we found it through this powerful search engine that you just saw an impromptu demonstration of, where we typed it in to that search engine, Basic Guide to Exporting, and there it is. The whole description, and that's the cover of the book in the lower left side. You can read some sample chapters there. I think there are 3 there now, and you can order the book from this site, this page. You can also call the toll-free number, and they will put you in the queue to receive the book, the new revised version, when it comes out at the end of the month. And if you bookmark this page, and come back at the end of probably the beginning of August, you will see the entire 17 chapters. And it's a great book. Sold 25,000 copies last year, completely sold out now in its second printing. And we find that for new as well as experienced exporters, it has content in it that people find of immense value to have as a resource, with export documents, chapters on export financing, government programs for getting some capital for your export plans and business expansion plans from U.S. government agencies. This is an alternative to the commercial banking sector, which, as many of you know, has not been so eager to loan money for international transactions, but Congress has provided some additional funding to Small Business Administration and the Export-Import Bank, and they now have a significant amount of new capital, and they would like to hear from you with a proposal for your business expansion plans overseas. I think you will find them very good people to work with. Okay, so the next resource I'd like to show you is Writing an Export Plan. And we have a whole section of recorded webinars in our collection here, and we're going to show you where that is in just a second. Here's the business plan. This is probably the SBA section, and this is where it is. And so you can look at some of the hot links here under Tools and Resources. There are books and descriptions of the kinds of things you need to take into account when you create that plan. The interesting thing is that we did, there is an outline for the plan at the bottom. Let's just click on that, Hunter, for fun. Okay, so there's sort of a typical marketing plan outline. But we, of course, coach our clients to think small to begin with, and think in terms of a couple of pages where you present the objectives that you have for the year, including some financial goals that you might have, and maybe a couple of countries that you're going to look at. And maybe you're going to go to a trade show. Maybe you are going to go on a trade mission. We'll talk about those later. Maybe you're going to go to the local branch of the Export Assistance Center in your area and interview them about the kinds of strategies that you might be able to pursue. Now, let's go back to the home page, and I'll show you another resource for the export planning purposes. Let's go scroll down a little bit. There we go. Let's look under training. There that is, with a professor type there with the ABC behind him. Let's go to Watch Archived Webinars. And this will be an archived webinar probably within the next week or so, unless I completely fall apart here in the middle of it, in which case we'll have to do it over again. But let's go down a little ways and we'll find the business planning or export planning. There we go, stop there. And how to write an export plan, second from the bottom. There it is. And then we'll click on Watch the Webinar. And these are absolutely free. And what happens is there I am again. This is one of my greatest hits, maybe the only one, and it's how to write an effective export plan. It's me for 40 minutes with slides and questions at the end, some very good ones, as I present how to write a plan that's effective and fairly easy for companies getting going. And I started saying when I began this little piece about business plans generally, and the fact that most U.S. manufacturers who are active exporters do not have a plan. They don't have one. And I would argue that without a plan, it's very difficult to be strategic about your exporting. It's easy then without a plan to just say, well, we're going to do it for a year, and then when things begin to look a little better in the domestic economy, we're going to switch back to our domestic clients and leave exporting for another day. It's also very difficult to communicate the value of exporting and the strategy that you have if you don't have something on paper that you can share with other people. So I think one of the reasons why U.S. companies are not as active in the exporting sector as some of our competitors is because we lack the strategic approach to doing it. And I think the plan is the first step in being strategic about it. So I would encourage you all at least to consider a simple plan. We can certainly help you if you call us anytime on this toll-free number, and we can discuss some of your interests and objectives and talk to you about how you can get that down in a plan that you can use in a strategic way for the rest of the year and going forward. And let's see, so we've done the plan. Now let's go to the expand the exports. Back to the home page, and we'll click on that expand your exports icon. And okay, so here we have 4 easy steps on how to expand into new markets. And you can look at complementary markets. You can track the global demand for your product. You can talk with a peer group about how they've done it. And of course, lastly, you can contact your local trade specialist at the Export Assistance Center. And of course, we now have the National Export Initiative that the President announced about a year and a half ago, and this is to double U.S. exports over the next 4 years and add thousands of jobs to the economy. We really believe that we can do it, that the country has been under-exporting for the last 20, 30 years. Our competitors have gone ahead of us in this respect, with more smaller companies in particular beginning to sell outside their own countries. And we think that this is a great business growth strategy, great business survival strategy for U.S. companies is to have an export strategy. And so we have a lot of resources, many of them here on Export.gov to help you with this. So let's think a little harder about expanding the exports, how to do it, what approach to take, and more importantly, what kinds of resources we have. So let's look first at the trade lead database. I mentioned earlier, and we'll look under opportunities, and then we'll find trade leads, and there they are, and let's go into the database. Now this is a way without a whole lot of effort where you, the U.S. company, can begin to just sort of survey the leads that are coming into our system from around the world. And Hunter's going to find a country to click on and then go into it, but you can see there that it goes by country and it goes by region, and it also goes by industry. So you can select the industry that you're in, and you're going to get all the trade leads that are there for that particular industry. And these aren't just leads that are put there by somebody in an internet cafe in some developing country across the world, and that may be bogus. These are leads that are trained colleagues, staff people at the embassies around the world come into contact with because they have met with individuals in those countries. The individuals have given them the leads and they put them in the system. You'll also find government procurement here. So if the government of Algeria, for example, is equipping a hospital and needs medical equipment or furniture for hospitals, this is where you're going to find it. And a lot of U.S. companies through this system have been able to make their first international sale because they have found a buyer through this particular system. So is it going to happen tomorrow? Probably not. New leads are being added all the time, so you need to monitor this particular tool on a fairly regular basis to see if things come in for you. It's not intended to be the only thing that you do. This is not. We would recommend your business strategy, your plan should not reflect that the only thing you're going to do is monitor the trade lead database on Export.gov, because you've got to have more things in your repertoire than just this. So that's why we will show you another possibility. This again is a fairly passive way of generating new business, but it's certainly one that we recommend. So we'll go to locations on the toolbar at the very top. We'll go down to international offices and we'll click on that. Now you see all of the countries where we have people. This is worth lingering on for a moment because this is just the name of countries. There's probably 75 or 76 of them here, but there are U.S. citizens in those countries, in the capital cities usually, at the U.S. Embassy. There's a small team of people. All they do all day long is help U.S. companies find buyers and deal with trade and commerce issues in that country. So for sure, if you already think you would like to sell to one of those, if you've done a business trip there or a pleasure trip and said, I wonder if my product would sell well in this place, I think it would. You talk to somebody and they said that they would like to have a sample, or through the research process that we're going to show you in a minute in the resources on Export.gov, you are going to be able to identify specific markets that you want to try to sell to. One way to do it is to make sure that you introduce yourselves to the U.S. commercial service in these countries. They're easy to get to, easy to talk to, delighted to speak with you by email or over the telephone, and this is going to be a resource. This is part of your back office, if you will, when it comes to identifying opportunities in these markets and getting your products to markets. You're going to call on these folks, and we encourage you to do so. So, Hunter, pick a market there. Oh, China. Why did you pick that one? Did we rehearse that? No. It's just everyone's thinking about China. I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people, China is on their minds for both good, bad, and indifferent. But we have a big operation in China. It's certainly a great and growing market for U.S. products and services. And this page is put together by the colleagues at the U.S. Commercial Service in Beijing. But we also have offices in Hong Kong and Shanghai and Guangzhou. And I think they're opening one in Shenyang pretty soon. They're advertising for an officer to go there, another great market in China. So this is probably the country where we have the most personnel on the ground because it's the biggest place, biggest market, hottest market, and also there's tremendous interest in the U.S. business community, big, medium, and small, and they're keeping us busy. So this is the site, and they would have, I would think, a business, let's see, they have a featured U.S. exporters, don't they? Somewhere there. Let's take a look, see if they have them. All right, well, they have business providers, right? U.S. business providers. So let's take a look there. Services for U.S. companies. Yes, let's open that up. Okay, and this will give you a description of the services that they have. And let's scroll down. Okay, some trade counseling. Quick Take. Let's back up a little bit. There's a service in China called a Quick Take, which is fast, coordinated counseling services, and they'll give you an assessment of the product that you have, and usually within 72 hours they'll be able to get back to you and say, yes, we recommend that this product is going to do well in China, or forget about it, don't waste your money, there's no way that anyone's going to buy that here. Let's pick another country just for the heck of it. That was China. A lot of good information there. And if you're interested in China, you want to bookmark that page because it changes regularly with new information on opportunities in China. So let's see. Let's go to someplace else in the world. Let's go to France. There we go. Okay, there's the France home, services for companies, business service providers, okay. So let's look under business service providers. All right, and let's scroll down, and there's only two. Let's look at business development. Okay, so Bongo International, that's interesting. So if these are folks in France that have contacted us, and they will, wait a minute, Bongo International is an e-commerce solution, customers outside of the United States to purchase products from U.S.-based web retailers. Okay, so this, if you have a business service that you would like promoted on the site in France or any of our other offices throughout the world, you can contact the embassy in that country, and we'll show you how to do that later, and you can have a description of the service that you provide and your contact information here. So it's another way of doing business promotion, business generation, and it's there on the trusted U.S. Embassy site that is promoted to French businesses and businesses in other parts of the world as well at each of the embassies. Okay? So then next we will go to trade events. That's back to the home page under opportunities. Let's take a look at those. That page. This is another method for generating prospects and sales without having to do a great deal of market research. In this case, the U.S. Commercial Service does a lot of this for you in the sense that if you participate in one of these events, you will get the assistance that we will provide, and it comes in a couple of different forms. First, there are the certified trade missions. Let's click on that, see what's there. Certified trade, there we go. And this describes what the trade missions are. This is where you physically will go to another country, and you will be escorted by a senior member of the Department of Commerce with a group of other companies. The fees for small and medium-sized enterprises vary from country market to country market, but they're pretty good deals. You get a big discount if you're a small enterprise with fewer than 500 employees. Most of you probably listening today fit into that category. And you have to pay your own airfare and your own expenses on the ground, but the rest is extremely reasonable. And what happens then is you actually get introduced to buyers in the countries which feature the mission stops, and you will meet with those companies that have been pre-selected based on profiles of the mission participants. So you'll have an opportunity there to meet buyers, and a lot of transactions are held or made as a result of that. And the other opportunity for an event, which is less expensive, doesn't require quite the time commitment that going on an international mission would, is the International Buyer Program. Down at the bottom there, click on that. And this program consists of about 50 U.S. trade shows in all kinds of different industries. And the U.S. Commercial Service supports the U.S. companies that go to the show and exhibit there. Then our colleagues in all of those embassies that you saw on that long list of countries a few minutes ago recruit interested buyers in that industry. They then pay their own expenses. They come to the United States. The person from the embassy escorts them there, and then our domestic colleagues and international colleagues work together to do matchmaking during the course of the show. And each year, that activity generates billions of dollars in sales for the U.S. companies. One of the more successful programs that we have, and it's certainly worth considering in your exporting plans of the future. Check out these trade events and see if any of them will meet your requirements. It's certainly a good strategy. And then next, we will look at the Market Research Library. And this part of the presentation, think, okay, you're not only going to rely on the more passive approach, which is to look at the trade leads database, to advertise on a U.S. Embassy website your services and your products, but you're actually going to systematically go through an exercise where you try to identify markets with the best promise for your particular product. This is the Market Research Library. All you have to do is put your email address in here and some other brief demographic information. It allows you to enter the site anytime and peruse the research that's there. Probably the best product, and maybe we can take a look at this, Hunter, is the Country Commercial Guide. We'll just pick any country there. In the scroll down menu, you can go to Germany, for example. Let's try that one. Okay, open that up. Press go. And here are all of the data on Germany. It starts with the Country Commercial Guide. Let's open that one up. And there's a Country Commercial Guide for each of the countries that we serve, plus others. The others that we do not have a presence at, and there are probably 100 markets in the world where we are not present, but our State Department colleagues are in the embassy. They also do a Country Commercial Guide. So there is a Country Commercial Guide for about 150 countries, which is just about every country in the United Nations. And here is the chapter outline for the Country Commercial Guide. As you see, there are 10 chapters. They're all organized separately, but each one takes a very, very close look at the economic and business climate in the country. It also has some contacts in Chapter 9, and these contacts are another way of generating some new business because the contacts will match the priority markets, the markets that we think are the best ones, and the contacts are actually businesses in the country that have surfaced or have identified themselves to us as ones that are interested in sourcing products from the United States. Now, the trick is after you've rushed in there, after the call is completed, and found the contacts in Chapter 9 and think, okay, I'm going to contact them this afternoon before anyone else does, you'll find, unfortunately, that the contact information for the companies is not there. It's not a trick. It's not bait and switch. It's because we don't want our foreign competitors to get in there and snatch the contacts before U.S. companies have a chance to do them. So we don't include the phone numbers and faxes and names and so forth. We ask that you call the office in Germany, in Berlin, and then once they have established that you are a bona fide U.S. citizen and company, they will then share those contacts with you. Just a little inside information between us friends. Okay, and then there's all the other information, all the other valuable stuff, best market reports, market research on specific kinds of products, that are big with the Germans at this particular point, and these things will be updated regularly with new information. The country commercial guide lasts a year. Every year it gets redone. So now is the time to get in there and take a look at those, and they can be the basis of your export plan. Okay, so let us, we'll go then to the free trade agreement section. Again, free trade agreements are worth looking at. We have, I think, some 14 of them now, and 3 are pending, as you have probably been reading in the press. Not going anywhere fast, but hopefully one day we'll wake up and they'll be approved. These are the ones with Colombia, South Korea, and Panama. Then there'll be 17, and they're good because no tariffs are charged on U.S. goods going into the country. Either they're zero or they are very much reduced over a period of time, giving us an advantage over all of our competitors who do not have free trade agreements. So anytime you can save, 8, 9, 10% on the cost of a good, if you're a buyer in that country, you're certainly going to look favorably on a producer outside the country that is selling their goods, and they get that break. They don't have to add that 10% or 12% to their customers, making the product that much more expensive, because it also costs, of course, to transport it from the United States to that country. But we have seen in case after case, all these countries have shown a very substantial increase in exports from the United States to them as a result of the free trade agreement. So all you need to know about each of those countries and the FTAs is here. You also can look at the FTA tariff tool, which is in the bottom left there. There's a video that introduces you to how to use it to do research. You can go back 10 years or to the beginning of the free trade agreement and before to compare the quantities of certain goods in your general industrial category that have been purchased by these countries over time, and you can get a sense of where the trends are and which ones might be the best market for you. And in other words, it's a way of prioritizing the countries that you will attempt to enter in the future. Okay, now let's look at the trade statistics real quick, because data is important, and being able to get the data and interpret it for your own business purposes is very important. This whole section is sort of an introduction to how to find the data and how to interpret it. And it's all U.S. export data going back 10 and more years. It's by Harmonized Code Number, so you can put your HTS number, which is the Harmonized Trading System number for your commodity, and you can do it by country, and you can then compare one country with another over the same time period. It also has, this may be the best part of it all, the average selling price. So if you want to get a sense of whether your product is price competitive in a particular market, then the data is there. It's an average, but it'll give you a sense of, after you've figured out your profit, your transportation costs, your duties and taxes, whether you're still in the ball game. And you can also see which country is growing the fastest with respect to your particular Harmonized Code Number, and that will really help give you a sense of what the demand is going forward, and that can be very, very valuable information. There's a video in there that will show you, it's very humorous, and it will show you how to create reports based on the types of data that I have just described. It's not difficult to do. It's been worked over by people who really know what they're doing, and they have been able to explain. If I can understand some of this stuff and create reports on it, believe me, you can write books. So give it a try, and if you need assistance in any way interpreting things and producing the reports, give us a call, and we'll be happy to help you figure it out. Okay, so we'll skip the videos because they're in there under multimedia. We'll show you just briefly that. Just scroll down, Hunter, if you will. And under the training, multimedia, behind that, you might just click on it. There's a whole section with podcasts and audio files, online courses that you can take, including our archive webinars, which we showed you before. Now, the good part about this is you can share them with your colleagues. If more than one of you you think is interested, if the new business development people in your business, you feel that they should understand this and get a sense of what a great resource it is, you can email the links to them. If there are people in transportation and logistics and accounting, anybody in the organization that you think would be, even the senior management, if you're not it, thinking that they might enjoy this as well, feel free to share this section with them, because really there's something for almost everybody in the company. And then we will go almost finally, as I see we are at 10 minutes before the end of the hour, and we do want to leave time for questions. We will show you export as a process. And here we're going to show you where you can find the harmonized trading system number, the HTS number for your product. And okay, so there's the international logistics section, which we want you to pay attention to, and then find the Schedule B number there on the left. This is run by the Foreign Trade Administration of the Census Bureau, and we'll go down to the Schedule B search engine here, click on that, open that up, and this is a brand new search engine that they have just launched, and hopefully it hasn't sank at the same time as we look at that nice blue screen. What this does basically, it allows you to put in your harmonized code number. Probably a lot of people are using it right now. We'll try again. Or rather, the description, it's not happening for us. Is it, you put your description of your product into the database, and it's not working for us, I guess, on the system. Try it on your own later. Let's go back, Hunter, and show the audience again where they can find it off of Export.gov. It's under Solutions. We'll go to International Logistics and click on that, and then you'll get this section. And on the left-hand side, Schedule B and Harmonized Number, and then you'll see this. Then you go down to Schedule B and you click on that hot link there, which is not so hot for us this afternoon, but you'll see it, and it's very intuitive when you get there as to how to get that number. That number is very important because it helps foreign customs figure out what to charge you in duties and taxes, and also to keep track of how many widgets are coming in, how many medical equipment is coming in, and this is very important. You've got to have that number, otherwise you're not going to get your goods to where they need to go. And so once you have the number, then you will want to find the duties and taxes. And so we'll go to the duty and tax database next. The duty and tax, the duty rather will vary HS code to HS code. So a rubber band will be different than a yo-yo, for example. We'll have a different number, and we'll probably have a different duty associated with it. And then go to online tariff database. That's that first bullet there. I wonder if we'll have the same trouble with it that we had with the other. I think there's a delay or something as we put this up on the our internet page, on your internet page. For whatever reason, it slows it down. Who knows what the real reason is? But that's where it is, folks. Take our word for it. Online database right there on that first bullet, and you'll have to put your email in. Now the whole page is going away. So let's get out of this back to our wonderful home page with all of that valuable stuff. We may not be going anywhere now because maybe the whole thing has crashed, but just as well because we are at the end of our time. But I wanted to reinforce the idea of the getting the duties and taxes. You can do it. It's not that difficult. And, of course, you can call us at 1-800-USA-TRADE, which is the Trade Information Center, for help in doing that. So there you have it, an opportunity to get leads, prospects from the system, and to track them over time as new ones are added. Other opportunities to meet people in the matchmaking that we provide through the trade shows and the trade missions. Get in touch with the local Export Assistance Office. If that's there now, we'll scroll down and we'll show you how to reach the offices, or scroll up. There we go. We're going to get that here in just a second. You'll want to reach out and connect with your local Export Assistance Center, and you'll find them at the bottom of the home page. It says our international offices and our domestic offices. There are the domestic offices. We might want to click on that if we're back online again, and there they all are. And hopefully somewhere near you, one of those offices exists, and they would be delighted to talk to you about your export plans. So thanks so much for your attention. We hope this has been useful. Apologize for a couple of the technical glitches here. It's the first time we've done this, but happy to open it up now to questions.
Great. Thank you, Doug. And yes, now we'll be taking voice questions. And also, for those of you who would like to ask a written question, please note the Q&A icon, or the Q&A letters that are on the upper left-hand side of your computer screen, and you can write and type in as many questions as you'd like, and we'll try to answer them. So I'll leave it to the operator right now. Thank you.
Hopefully the operator will come back in a second. And
we have no questions at this time, so as a reminder, you may press *1 to ask your question.
This is a question that came through. Complementary market. Let's see, what is a complementary market? I think a complementary market is a market that is near your principal one. In other words, if you are exporting to Malaysia, then Indonesia may be the complementary market, in that you can expand into that region a little bit easier. The same is true for Costa Rica and Panama. The importance of Indonesia, of course, is that it's a huge market. Maybe it's extremely one of the most populous countries in the world. It's democratic. More people are moving into the middle class. It has probably 8% GDP growth last year. It looks like it's on a very favorable path to financial stability, and it's definitely a place worth thinking about. And if you're in Malaysia already, or maybe a better complementary market would be Singapore, which has great relationships with Malaysia, great relationships with Indonesia, great supply chain connections between the two. The Singaporeans often know very well the distribution system within Indonesia, and they know who the distributors are and can get in touch with them. So if you go to our embassy in one of those markets, then go to another embassy in Malaysia and one in Jakarta, and for the same price for the airfare and maybe a few extra days tacked on for hotels and so forth, you can do that much extra business and make those additional contacts and hopefully sales. That's a good question. Others, please.
Looks like there's another question here, Doug. Looks like export plans seem to be written for single items. Our company sells many, many items. How do you recommend we write an export plan that covers 20-plus items?
Okay, that's an excellent plan. Assuming you are well, I think, assuming you are selling them in the same country, you would have a separate chapter for each product, and you may need different kinds of distributors for each product, and a different strategy for finding those distributors. One way to find them, of course, is to utilize the U.S. Commercial Service. They can probably find you distributors for all of the 23, but they're likely to be different, and the price points are also likely to be different. So I would say that it's a more complex plan than a single item, a single product. But the overview of the plan, the template that we have produced, and I definitely suggest that you take a look at that webinar on writing an effective export plan, will, I think, work for as many products as you have. Good luck with all of them, and let us know if we can help you fill the plan in with some strategies that we could propose for you.
Thank you, Doug. We have another question here. Looks like from Stephen Power. He said he tried to create an account in the export database, and after registering, he received this error message that market research reports access denied. The company is not registered as a U.S. company. Market research reports are only accessible to U.S. companies only. I've had a similar calls from the 1-800 number too with the same type of error message. How can we help this person?
All right, we can help them immediately by contacting for them our help desk that manages the access issues for the market research database. And if we have his contact information, we will, if you wouldn't mind, Linda, or I can do it, we will call the help desk right after this webinar, and we'll get him in probably this afternoon.
That's great. I have Stephen's name, so I will note that.
Wonderful.
Okay. We'll go to the next question here from Denise Carpenter.
All right.
The question is, who has the final determination of the specific HS code to use when exporting your product?
The final determination would probably be the customs officials. That is our customs on the outbound, and for the inbound, it would be the customs of the country that you're sending them to. Sometimes, and I think maybe this is what the question refers to, Denise, let us know if we're wrong. There have been issues when they'll inspect the cargo and it doesn't match up with what the harmonized code number is. I mean, if it's generally in the ballpark, there's enough discretion and latitude so that if it doesn't directly fit, if it's not an exact match, it's still within the same chapter, and therefore it will not be challenged. But big problems can occur if it varies substantially between the physical inspection of the goods and what's on the shipping documents as far as the HTS number is concerned. There are two ways to, help prevent this. The first way is to call us at 1-800-USA-TRADE, and we will check this for you through the sources that we have. And one of the sources we have is the Bureau of the Census, the Foreign Trade Statistics Division. They're the ones who operate a hotline for the commodity classification. So they're trained to look carefully, talk to you about the description. If the description is of such complexity that they will ask you to send them a description of it, and they will do the research and they'll come up with the best possible match for the good. So if you do those two things, you should be in good shape. Now, sometimes with technologies that change quickly, there may not be an HTS number that fits, even in a general fashion. And in this case, the U.S. Census Bureau will create a new number for you, and it may be the last couple of digits of the 10-digit full Schedule B code, but they'll work with you to classify your product and provide a number, even if it's a new number, that will then go into the tariff book, and it should pass muster with foreign customs. Hopefully that covers the question. It's a good one.
Thank you, Doug. And this is our last question, I think, and it's at the hour. The question is from Betty Liu. Do we need a license if we want to export the diesel-related products, such as diesel additives?
No. Generally, those are freely traded commodities that do not have dual use and do not sound like they are controlled in any way by the U.S. government. That, however, does not leave the exporter completely free of responsibility when it comes to checking the control lists This is on the BIS, Bureau of Industry and Statistics, BIS. I think it's bis.doc.gov. The lists are online, or you can call us, and the lists are basically of denied parties, people who we cannot sell anything to because they're involved in crimes, or they have violated U.S. laws, and you can't sell to them. Certain institutions are on the list, certain individuals are on the list, and as a business practice, you should take a look at the list. They're not that lengthy, and make sure you're not selling to somebody who's on the blacklist, because you yourself could get into trouble. But as far as exporting the diesel-related petrochemical products, you do not need an export license for them.
Okay, great. And I know we started a little bit later, so if you have any more written or voice questions, please take this opportunity to ask them. Once again, to ask a voice question, press *1. And to ask a written question, there's a Q&A little tab on the upper left-hand side of the computer where you can type in your questions.
We do have a question coming from Mark Spencer. Your line is open.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Doug. Thanks for taking my last question. We are already exporting to China to one distributor. A distributor that has actual website has been vigorously approaching us about selling a large quantity of goods and has invited us to visit them. But it sounds, that saying, if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. Who do I contact to confirm the veracity or the
Yes, the truthfulness of their invitation, their bona fides, if they have them. Where in China are they located?
They say Northwest Province.
Okay. Well, I would say you should go to our office in Beijing.
Okay.
And they can make some inquiries. We have connections in the far north of China. It's probably no telephone book exists maybe for them, but we do have ways, as they say, to find this information. And Kelly, if you leave your contact information or email it to us, Kelly Holloway, who is our China expert in Portland, Oregon, can help you, contact our folks in Beijing and get an answer from them.
Great. How do I contact Kelly Holloway?
Okay. Why don't you email me? Oh, tell him to send it. I'm just reading it off the thing now. Send it to China, C-H-I-N-A, BIC, one word, B as in boy, I, C as in cat, at trade.gov.
ChinaBic@trade.gov.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question.
The next question is coming from Keith. Your line is open.
Hello, Keith.
Well, that may be me, but I think I answered my own question. I was looking for the trade data information that used to be on the old website was in one place, country information. Looks like it's mainly dispersed in the area that you showed us, market research.
That's correct.
Yes, thank you.
You answered your own question, and you should be presenting today if you're that good.
Well, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No further questions at this time.
All right.
Okay, well then everyone, if there are no more questions, that concludes our webinar for today. And remember, for those of you who have additional questions, you can still write them. We can still capture them under that Q&A tab and respond to you later. Also, Doug, what is your contact information so that if they have questions from this webinar, who should they contact?
Well, you can certainly, Hunter will put the first slide back up again, which I think has my email. Does it? No, it doesn't, so I'll give it to you. And it is Doug, D-O-U-G, .Barry, B-A-R-R-Y, at trade, that's T as in Tom, R as in Robert, A as in Apple, D as in David, E as in Eve, .gov.
Okay, great. And also, I'd just like to thank all of our participants for joining us for today's webinar, and thank you to Doug Barry for his excellent presentation and also for Hunter's assistance in making this presentation possible. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.